everybody. Welcome to YourFreedomHub.com's Accelerating Financial Freedom webinar series. And I'm your host, Jeff Cantor, along with Matt Nye. Unfortunately, Matt couldn't be here tonight, but we're glad to have you here anyway. Also, just so you're aware, this program is recorded, so we are going to be allowing you to see these into the future. And also, if you'd like to register so you see all of these coming forward, you're going to want to go to YourFreedomHub.com/AFF as you see here. And again, here are all the locations of where we're going to be. Now, this is the premise of what this whole webinar is all about. The reality that lending institutions and all of money in America is not really designed for you as a consumer to benefit. It's for all the organizations that make money on your payments and your debts and so on. And so we want to be able to show you on a regular basis all the different elements and things about money and ways that you need to get smarter about this, because unless you personally take control of your life, nothing's going to happen. Whenever you think you've got a helper, they've got a bias. They have products to sell you that are going to make commission or something, which is okay, but you need to understand that, and that's what this series is all about. And just as I said, all of these videos are available as we record them. So the beginning of every week, you'll get to see all of the last ones. And depending on how you like to get information today, you can go to BitChute, Brighteon, or even to YouTube and be able to see what's going on. Now all of these links here are case sensitive. So if you decide to go, make sure you enter it correctly. And just to give you a quick flavor, these are what the sites look like at the moment. So this is the channel up on YouTube. This is the one that's up on Brighteon for those that aren't aware of what Brighteon's all about. This is the website that was started by a multimillionaire that got banned off of Facebook. And so all the people that are banned off of YouTube and Facebook and all of those places, this is where they live. And yet here's another killer place called BitChute that a lot of people don't know about. We get a lot of viewership on this channel and we never promote it. So it's exciting to see what's happening in America today as we all start to take control of our own financial freedom. And that's what we are trying to help happen here at YourFreedomHub.com. Now, tonight was going to be really exciting because we've really got something real special. I've got Heather Wagenhals, and you'll see, and I'm not going to read this whole thing here, but you can see she's got an excellent background and really can appreciate what we're talking about tonight, because sadly, the one thing everybody seems to know about is, who won this particular game and who's this famous celebrity and all kinds of stuff we do know about. But the one thing, what none of us know about? Money. How it's created, how it works. We just keep trying to get a better raise or get a better interest rate or get a better, monthly payment. And none of that means anything because the system understands that fallacy of us chasing that nonsense, and they're making money on us handwriting, leftover fist kind of a thing. So today we're going to start to clear that up. So Heather, I want to welcome you today. I'm going to give you permission to take over the screen here. And wait, before I do though, let me show you a couple things about her. So I'm going to toot her horn just a little more.
Yay!
Okay, so here she's up on LinkedIn, so you certainly want to try to get a chance to talk to her. And then also she's got a great site here. This is a really good one. And just as a little quickie sidebar, I had the luxury of being on her show that she runs, and she's got a great show she's going to talk about today. And oh, I love this in the background. I'm just seeing this for the first time. It says Atlas Shrugged.
Yes.
So
that's
yes,
our Atmosphere dating website.
There you go. Oh, how awesome is this? So anyway, Heather, I'm going to give you the screen here if you'd like to take control of it. So I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay.
And now you're able to start to share.
Yay. Well, I just have me to share.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay, then I'm just going to keep.
For you and your
I'm going to keep this up in the background then. So go right have at it.
Okay. Well, it's great to be here. You and I have had a few conversations now, and you're going to be on an upcoming episode again, as we always talk about the freedom for choice in healthcare, and that's dictated by the insurance companies. And so we have a delightful conversation because, like you and I have both acknowledged, if we wrote the check that the insurance companies do to the doctors and the service providers in the healthcare fields, we would think differently and perhaps make different decisions when it comes to that. And as a matter of fact, our dear friend Matt Nye, who has hopefully he did a good job choosing me to be his fill-in host for tonight while he's out campaigning, trying to fight the good fight and make a difference for liberty and every individual in the great state of Florida. But one of the things that is really, really important to me, and this is something that I talk about on my show, and I have been doing Unlock Your Wealth in some form since the turn of the century. It originally started, I was a guest host. I was just a sidekick, you know. I wasn't the person, if you will. I was just the sidekick. I was the Ed McMahon. And I went from being the Ed McMahon on the Financial Fitness Forum to having my own show, Unlock Your Wealth Radio. And I was here on local radio in Arizona, where I've been born and raised. And then I, all of a sudden got picked up and syndicated. And now we're with iHeartMedia, and we do television, and we're simulcast on iHeartRadio. So it's been an incredible ride over the past 2 decades. And the one thing that I keep seeing over and over, and this is why my financial advice is so much different than all of the other gurus out there. And the reason why it's so different is because we take a physiology first approach to money management and success. And people say, well, what does my biology have to do with my money? Well, everything, because the reasons why we don't manage our money well, or manage our weight well, or our relationships well, is because our physiology gets in the way. And what I mean by that is it's the way the brain is built and the way our behaviors are programmed and then refined over time. Let me ask you something. If I told you there's one way to get rich, and every rich person has done this, would you say, absolutely, I'll do exactly as you say, Heather? Would you do it? Can you hear me, Jeff? Did I lose you? I think I lost you. So
no, I was going to say I had myself on mute to not make background noise, but yes, I would agree. I would certainly want to follow step by step, which I know, just like buying a McDonald's franchise, if that's what I knew was going to work, I would do it.
Okay, so you're sitting down, right? Are you ready? Because this is what every millionaire and billionaire does. They spend less than they make.
Darn, I hate that idea.
That's it. And so here's the problem. We know this. You can't find any American that has a few bucks in his pocket that doesn't already know that. The challenge is we know what to do, but we don't do what we know. We do what we've practiced. We do what was programmed. And that's the biggest challenge. So if we grew up in an environment that was not the most financially effective environment, like, say mine growing up, then we're going to make mistakes. The financial advice that I grew up with, and let me just tell you, we were so poor growing up. Do you know how poor I was growing up, Jeff?
You had to walk uphill both ways to school?
Well, I did and I would say in the snow, but everybody would know I'm lying here in Arizona. No, we were so poor, Jeff, that I had to envy the dirt poor kids because they had dirt.
Exactly. There you go.
They had dirt. We didn't even have dirt. I had to envy them. I grew up making my own clothes. But here's what I learned. This is the money management advice I learned. My mother worked 1,000 different jobs, right? If you
typically,
or it was on sale, you had a moral obligation to buy it. Didn't matter if you didn't need it. It didn't matter if you had to spend $10 in gas to drive across town to get it. It didn't matter that you already had 30 of them in your drawer with the wrappers on. You were morally obligated to acquire that item because it was a bargain.
Right.
So that's why, I could go to Walmart or Big Lots or any of these discount places, and I could spend hundreds of dollars, but I was doing it like $1, $5 at a time, right?
Right. Everything's a deal until it adds up.
Right, until it adds up. And back in the 90s, when I first got a credit card, before they changed the laws, your interest could outpace your minimum payment. And so you were paying interest, on late fees, on overdraft fees, and your minimum payment didn't cover it, nor did it even take a little shred of change off of your balance. So your balance kept growing. So it was really hard to unbury yourself from debt. And it's not that I didn't know to spend less and save more. That was pretty obvious. In my early 20s, I was a stockbroker. I was making millionaires millions of dollars every day, right? You would think some of that would rub off, but no, it didn't, because my conditioning from childhood was so strong that I just spent and spent. And I thought, oh, well, if I could manage the minimum payment on this credit card, I'll just get another credit card. And then what did I do? I married a pretty boy that was not very smart. And so he helped me spend a ton of money. And I was making money. I mean, being a stockbroker in the early 90s, you didn't have to be good. You could throw anything at the wall and it would stick, right? Because that was the beginning of growing up.
Yeah, like things have been of late.
Exactly. So I couldn't do anything wrong. I was making money hand over fist, but somehow I was still broke. How does somebody earn $1 million before they're 25 and not have anything to show for it? Still have $70,000 in credit card debt.
I have to laugh, Heather, because somebody once told me that, you have a job. You know what that stands for? It's an acronym, actually. Just over broke.
Exactly. So it wasn't until I started, I was always a thinker and a big voracious reader. And so I just, I was just kept reading and reading all these books, but it wasn't like getting in, and I couldn't understand why I'm reading all these books about building wealth, but here I am still impoverished. And it wasn't that I didn't know what to do. Goodness gracious, I was giving people financial advice on how to build wealth, but I wasn't doing what I was espousing. I was doing what I was trained to do, that was ingrained for the first 18 years of my life. My dad left, so it was just my mother. So I didn't have that other, counterpart where some people, they have parents where they have one's a spender and one's a saver. Maybe they can get like a healthy mix. Nope. And one of the things that I learned from Tom Hopkins when I went into sales training is that he said that you can become successful because of someone or in spite of them. And so it was up to me to figure it out. If it was meant to be, it's up to me. That was my motto that I started back then. And then I started reading, and then I was like, what's going on? And then I started studying the brain, and then I kept hearing about emotions, but it goes before emotions, because emotions are a byproduct of your physiological response to your environment. That's why you can refinance your house and take money out and pay off your debt only to be in debt 6 months later. That's why you get a home equity line of credit only to max it out after paying off your debt. And now you've maxed out your cards and you've just doubled your debt. But you put part of it on your house because you treated your house like an ATM machine, because we're not treating the problem. We're just putting a Band-Aid over it when we keep bailing these people out or doing these consolidation loans. All it does is give you another payment, it consolidates everything into this nice little payment. But what does that do when you're just over broke? At your job, you go, I have some breathing room. Well, whoop, 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 time to start spending again. And out we go. And we start making that happen.
The sad reality, too, of most people's inclinations, if I do some stuff with them in the health space and we save them, let's say 50% over what they're spending on Blue Cross, you know what they end up doing with the money we helped them just now save? They spend it on pizzas and a flat screen TV. And so really, if I help somebody, they're all excited. I should be excited. But really, I just gave them a license to screw themselves up even more.
Well, you helped them make an effective healthcare decision, so don't take away the value that you provided. What they did with that option wasn't on you. So just so you know, I'm gonna cut you some slack right there, because people make individual choices. And you know, one of the things that I love, and we saw the atlasphere.com website as you were scrolling through, one of the things that I love about objectivism and about the philosophy and the teachings of Ayn Rand is everybody has a philosophy. All right, you do, I do. Unless you think about it, unless you examine your values and decide what's important to you and actively create your philosophy, you'll just adopt anything that's out there. And so everybody operates from a philosophy. We either do it consciously or subconsciously. And so what you have to do is we have to take a look and identify what are our values, what's important to us. And the first thing that I do with any of my coaching clients when they come to me and they're like, Heather, I'm swallowed. And I just got another one. You know, these are people that have 2 6-figure incomes, adult children. So they don't really have, they're not financially responsible for anybody but themselves. They should be living the high life as empty nesters. And they're struggling. Why? Why are they struggling? Because of the ineffective financial decisions they made. And like I said when we first started, the reasons why we are not managing money effectively have nothing to do with money and everything to do with our physiological approach to what we do. And that's the biggest challenge, is that there are the question and answer, how do we get out of our own way?
It's a tough one, frankly, because if you think about it, it's the classic, the cobbler's kids' shoes. All their clients have awesome shoes.
Analogy.
And it fits in almost every situation. I've worked with auto mechanics whose cars are wrecked and they're working on like Bentleys. So, you know, everybody loves to preach all day long, but how do you actually do what you're talking about? And that's a huge challenge. And now even worse, because everything is like so self-indulgent or so echo chamber-ish that if I decide I want to be a procrastinator, I can find a bunch of supporters to be a procrastinator. So I never really get exposed to the reality that, you know, you actually have to do something. I used to have to laugh with you. Remember when, I forget his, Reverend Schuler used to be around with the Crystal Cathedral, that big killer phenomenal building that was all glass. But he had a commercial he used to always run. And the only thing that he would catch, that little catchphrase that make you go tune in on the weekend to watch his sermon, was don't just sit there, do something. And you're like, geez, how pathetic of a message is that?
Well, I remember my father, you know, I went to go live with him for my freshman year of college. And I had a half sister, and I would always remember she was like 5 years old or something. And she was paralyzed by indecision. And what we don't realize is not making a decision is making a decision. And actually I talked about that on my Thursday Thought on my Instagram channel. If you want to find me and follow me there, it's instagram.com/unlockyourwealth. And you can find all of my Instagram channel shows, all of my regular shows from Unlock Your Wealth TV are there as well. And that was today's Thursday Thought, is about becoming a decision maker. You know, a little less conversation, a little more action, please, like Elvis. That was my whole point today. Well, you know, I was inspired by that song and I thought about it. He would always say to her, do something, even if it's wrong. And she would just sit there, do something, even if it's wrong. But make a decision, move forward, because the beauty of that is, well, what if I make a mistake? Well, that's okay. It pushed you forward. And I used to work for this amazing man, and he would say, Heather, you can't look at things as, did I make the wrong decision? He says, you have to look at life this way. Every decision is the right decision in that moment, because it takes you to the next right decision you can make. And it's about creating momentum. And I love that. You know, because everybody talks about, you know, failure's not an option. Well, failure is an option, and it's more than an option. It's likely. But we don't learn when we succeed. We learn when we fail, because now, as my uncle used to always say, keep it between the fences. We learn where the fences are. When we fail, we figure out the boundaries on the edge of what's not working. Okay, that didn't work, so now I can come back this way. It's like when you take a shot, and if you're shooting at a target, you can sit there and aim all day, right? And Michael Masterson wrote that really great book, Ready, Fire, Aim. So until we take that first shot, we don't even know if we're on the target. But if we miss the bullseye, all we have to do now is say, oh, I just got to go 2 clicks to the right or 2 clicks to the left. And that's the value of taking action. And so we can't worry about whether or not it's the wrong action, because some will be right and some will be not so right. But we have to eliminate the judgment, because then that creates more bad behavior, because the behavior is driven by what? The chemical dumps we have in our body. When we get hormones going, this prefrontal cortex right here shuts off. You know, it's fight, freeze, or flee. And so the body diverts all of the blood to our extremities so we can either run or fight, or we just like play possum. Whoa, I hope they don't see me. I'm not here. And that's not helpful either. Because again, not making a decision is making a decision. But when that happens, our abilities to think critically and reason are out the window. And it takes about 20 minutes or so for the body to burn off all that cortisol when you have that. I mean, you know, you ever get like super shaky, or perhaps you've had this experience in the past, because I know you work for yourself now, but maybe when you had a boss and all of a sudden he corners you and he starts dumping on you, and like, you're like, oh my God, and you can't defend yourself properly, and you know you're right, but you're reaching for the words, but they're just not there. But then, like, you know, half hour later, you're at the bar with your friends and you're like, man, I should have said this. I should have said that. Well, in that moment, you woulda, coulda, shoulda, but you didn't, because you couldn't. Because your brain chemically shut off your ability to be critically thinking in that moment. And that's why it's important for us to stay in our highest resource state. And if we are upset, don't make financial decisions. Don't go shopping. Shopping is not a solution, okay? And a lot of people, what do they call it? Retail therapy. Yeah. Well, let me retail your therapy when your husband or significant other sees the credit card bill after your retail therapy. He's going to send you to the psychologist instead and get your head checked. And it's all about physiology. It's just making effective decisions in this moment. And that's why we have to try to stay at our highest resource state. And that's the way to overcome these bad decisions. But so once I start doing that, once I start identifying what my personal philosophy is, I always like to start with this question: how do you want to be remembered? Do you want to be remembered as that person that was conscientious financially, that took care of themselves financially and their loved ones? Or do you want to be the guy that was in debt for your entire life? And that people that when you drop dead, like, you owed people, you borrowed from your friends. Don't lend Bob money, he won't pay you back. You want to be that guy? No. So you have to start making changes. And once you get that working up here, and how to become more resourceful in every moment, even under duress. And these are the things that I teach on my Unlock Your Wealth TV show. And I also do coaching and financial advising for individuals who want to take a physiology first approach to success. And you can find me or direct message me easily on Instagram or Facebook. Or if you just email me at heather@unlockyourwealth.com, you can reach me there too. But what we need to do is have a better solution. So like your point here on accelerated financial freedom. So I've made the decision to make a change. I'm taking active steps to change my behavioral responses to my financial future. But now how do we get rid of this debt? That's the bigger question. And that's the answer that you and Matt and I have.
Yes,
and it's the best one that I've seen to be able to do that.
Well, like you said, I mean, the challenge, and here's a great little visual of what you described. It's like going to the grocery store to get what I sort of need, but yet I'm famished. I didn't eat all day.
So you will, in what? A physiological state of being that's not your most resourceful.
No. So, and like everyone is so insistent on having like a yoga thing, coach, or all this other stuff. But literally the most important thing, because see, if you want to indulge yourself on all that other ancillary things, you need a financial coach. And to think you're going to do it by yourself, I always tell everybody, let's say you commit that you're going to buy this exercise, you're going to buy one of those over the top, overly priced Pelotons, because I'm going to get in shape. and before you know it, it's a clothing rack.
Right. Well,
But if I,
and,
but if I gotta, but wait, but if I have a coach,
advice in there.
but yeah, but if I have a coach waiting for me at the local gym, who's like insistent that I be there, and then I am there, and they're telling me, look, you got to go one more rep, Heather. You can do it.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to succeed. And so you really need that helper, because somebody's going to either hold you accountable or give you the better advice. So you on your own, you don't have enough time to Google all day to figure out what to do. And that's the beautiful
part about it. You just hit the nail on your head about accountability, because when we can't create the discipline to be self-governing in this moment with regards to our finances or our fat fannies or whatever, that's the challenge, is the accountability. And we haven't been able to create that for ourselves because we have what we have. We are where we are. We're overweight. We're in debt. We're overstressed. We're not communicating effectively with our spouses or significant others or our family members. We have deteriorating relationships because we haven't been able to prioritize effectively. And the beautiful thing with what I do with people is you already have all the resources necessary to be as successful as you desire. If you're not, it's because your resources aren't aligned in a way that are serving you. And that's why you need those coaches to help give you the intestinal fortitude you need when you're most vulnerable, to help you start implementing the right strategies to retrain the behaviors to get you where you need to be. And that's the biggest hurdle that folks have to overcome, is to be able to rent that intestinal fortitude from somebody else until they can build their own. Because let's face it, the first thing in the morning that you do, you're excited, you hit the day, you've got discipline, you've got intestinal fortitude, you got enthusiasm. But by the time the end of the day, your discipline dissipates, willpower wanes. So maybe you did get to the gym early. You were able to fix that part of your discipline. You did it before work, before the kids got up. You snuck out, you worked out, you came home, and bam, you're ready to start your day. You have an even better day. But then you get a flat tire on the way home, or little Susie forgot her instrument and she's got to play in some sort of recital, or little Bobby needs his uniform. He packed the home uniform and he needed his away uniform for his soccer game. And then your spouse says, oh, pick up the dry cleaning. Oh, we need this. By the way, we have to be there. And so when you get home and it's like 9 or 10 o'clock at night, there's no more willpower. And that chocolate cake from your friend's birthday party last week is sitting there calling your name. Guess who's going to pick up the phone and answer? You and your lack of willpower. That's why we need to have these things in place where we can rely on the support of others until we can be strong enough to stand on our own.
What's a great understanding too is, a lot of people want to be entrepreneurial. You start to figure out that having a 9-to-5 job sort of has its limitations. But the person, and some people kind of almost think it's silly, but a lot of people figure out, what? I should get like a McDonald's franchise, because somebody else who really knows which end is up has totally figured out how to make a successful business. And really all I have to do is execute the steps that this 3-ring binder tells me to do, and I'm going to be a millionaire. So the same thing holds true like you're describing. If you understand how to structure your own even if you are a 9-to-5 person, if you understand how to line everything up right, you're going to succeed. But you know what the challenge really is? Everybody says, hey, I'm great at what I do at work, or I'm the best mechanic, or whatever it is. And somehow they suddenly extrapolate to think that they're smart equally when it comes to money.
And it's the one thing that we don't teach in school.
And you wonder why sometimes. Why is that not taught?
Well, don't get me started on the public school system and the inculcation of our youth. But
again, you have to sort of have, and not necessarily it's a bad or conspiratorial thing, but you have to start to wonder, there's so much of the system is designed around either the status quo or others being in control of your decision making.
If if you want to read an amazing article, you need to read the most recent issue of The Deep Woods, and you can find it at jimwoodsinvesting.com. He's one of my regular quarterly co-hosts. You've met him here at Freedom Fest. And he's, the #3 stock picker in the world. So you don't get to that place by chance, okay? It's by choice. And he wrote an amazing article about school choice and recognized something in the presidential address that probably was not what people were expecting for an address, but brought up some really good issues. And he talks about the inculcation of our youth in the public school systems and how it's a problem. But we don't teach people what they need to know. So that way, when they get out into the real world, they're dependent upon somebody else. They're dependent upon Uncle Sam, State Sam, Municipal Sam to help them with, as you know, their healthcare needs, their income requirements. We're not giving people skills to be successful. We're inculcating them for something else, to be herded like sheep. But then we get mad when that happens. And it's like, you can't have your cake and eat it too, because you've got to be thinking on your own. You have to learn the powers of reasoning, critical thinking, and we're not even teaching that. And so, for you and I, it's not that big of a deal because we do understand how to think critically and how to reason and make effective decisions and not just follow the herd. Yes, I'll take your opinion, your information under advisement, but I'm going to do my own research. And I'm going to go take a look at what my options are. And then I'm going to weigh them against people in their particular role or specialty that do what they do way better than I do. I'm not going to operate on myself. I want somebody that went to school, that's classically trained, and that has millions of happy customers. Yes, this guy took out my spleen, and here I am still alive to tell you the story. That's what I want when I go to a doctor, when I want a lawyer. I want the best defense possible. When I go to my financial planner or my health or fitness expert, but we don't think in terms of that, and our mortality is our lowest fear on the hierarchy of fears chart, is the actual fear of death. But we spend tons of money on like yoga coaches and mindfulness coaches. But when it comes to managing our money, oh, you want $500 for a consultation? Oh my gosh. But they're spending way more than that on something that they're not even doing, like their Peloton machine with their $50 a month subscription that they're not even using. It's just some of the challenges that people have, and that's part of the ineffective decision making, because we get emotionally engaged to the outcomes before we even make the choice. And that's
so yeah, no, it's interesting because the whole, it's great, all these new tools and technology and everything, but it's definitely catering to the worst instincts, because now, on social media, I hear what I want to hear. I can kind of kick back. It's almost like when I get up on one of those websites that I just bought something and it says, hey, people that bought that, and you know what else they liked? They bought this, this, or this. And I'm like, oh, I guess I'll be along with the in crowd and I'll buy that too. And no one really understands what debt I'm taking on for myself or where I'm going. And I'm so self-indulgent. And I'm just assuming everybody else vetted this information. And, not necessarily that it's horrible what you're doing, but none of it's for your benefit. And like you just said, the goals, I want to take what you've told me under advisement. Don't just emotionally click on it because all my buddies on Facebook, two-thumb that up, so I'll do it too. And that's where we're at. So we're not teaching we're not teaching anyone to think like used to be the case. We're teaching them what to think.
The big problem.
And no one even realizes that. It's almost like we're sitting in a minority to stand back enough to say, wait a minute, don't you sort of see this is actually propaganda, and not in a malicious way per se. They're just trying to make some money and they're not necessarily trying to do a bad thing to you. But do you really need to take on all that added debt? Do you really want that lease on that car? And I know that person and that actor is so compelling, but.
Exactly. But these are the mistakes that I made in my 20s. I'm just fortunate that back then nobody really drilled into my head, you got to take on all this debt and go to college. I'm really fortunate that, because, these kids are just, the inculcation continues. and they're graduating from college and they still can't get a job because they have no resourceful skills.
It's interesting, and others will appreciate this context. How many people, Heather, have you ever worked with over time that after they really kind of have that light bulb go off, after you really kind of get them on the straight and narrow, that they say, geez, Heather, I wish I knew what you told me 10 or 15 or whatever years ago?
Oh, well, they all do.
Yeah, exactly.
They all do. But I was them. It's not like I'm saying like, oh, well, I never made a mistake. Please. Like when I just talked about failure is likely, well, I had to fail my way to success. In order for me to become a millionaire, I had to figure it out by losing a whole ton of cash first. So if I can save you a few steps along the way, then my mission is complete. But I made those same mistakes. I'm telling you, I bought a house when I was 22 years old. By 23, I had $70,000 in credit card debt. And I thought everybody that drove a BMW had a huge mortgage and a ton of credit card debt. And we're just like, oh, well, I still have another couple $100 worth of disposable income this month. I should probably go get another credit card and max it out.
I've made it.
Yes, because there was nothing taught about money in my house growing up. I mean, I'm serious. If you had a coupon or it was on sale, you were morally obligated to own that object. And that's what I learned. And so I didn't understand exactly how there was a disconnect, because let me tell you, it sucked growing up poor. And I was never more driven than I was because of that I wanted to achieve. I was driven consciously. I kept saying, I want to be a millionaire. I'm going to be a millionaire. I don't know how, but I am going to figure out a way to make $1 million. And I did. The problem was I didn't have the skills and the resources mentally to be able to hang on to it. Woo! It's one thing to make it. It's another thing to hang on to it. And that was the journey of the next 10 years of my adult life, trying to figure it out.
It's an amazing challenge, and most people don't see that because they're focused, like you said, on how do I make $1 million? But the real problem is, what do you do once you make it? You see, you were smart with the widget invention or your advice thing or the cool website you created, but you never knew what to do once the money, once your wish, be careful what you wish for type of thing. Once you start to make that money, most people have that's why every seemingly lottery winner ends up bankrupt.
Well, and you know what? That's funny that you mentioned that. So lottery winners, celebrities, professional athletes, actors, musicians, those comprise a majority of my coaching clients.
And we're the ones, and we're envious of all of them, and we'd be the same victim that they are if we suddenly had the success that they suddenly had.
Well, but it wasn't sudden. The money appeared like all at once they got that final contract or that big deal. But they worked at their craft for a very long time, potentially impoverished. And it reminds me, about, 10 years ago, ESPN did a show on their 30 for 30, and it was called Broke. And it talked about all these athletes, but it's not just that, it's your upbringing, and it's about the inculcation from your parents and your peers and people of influence in your sphere, so those can be clergy, those can be, professionals, that can be your educators, maybe other family members that are older that seem esteemed. And if they're giving you advice and saying like, oh, don't forget where you came from, or, you're morally obligated to take care of your parents, even though they sabotaged you your entire life, or, well, you need to help out your little brother. He's never really had a break. You got to take care of him. Or you have this entourage that when you want to go out, you can't just go out with one of your friends. 200 of them have to come. And, oh, guess who's picking up the check? You are. And you don't want to feel like the bad guy. So you how do you handle that? So what do? Is you act like the magnanimous person. You write the check. They don't care if they break your bank, but you're dealing with all of these emotions. Physiologically, we don't want to be rejected. The fear of abandonment is huge. So what do? We spend the money. We try to buy somebody's affection or attention. It's just one of the ways. But those are the people, the celebrities have the tougher time. And we're so envious of them. Oh, well, they did this and they did that. And it looks like they were an overnight success. Well, it only took them 15, 20 years to be that overnight success. But society guilts them into feeling that they haven't earned that money when they've more than earned it. So.
Yeah, and a lot of time they feel guilty about it sometimes, so they're inclined to spend the money on all their friends and buy them cars and so on.
And we don't do it consciously. They know they need to be putting money away. Well, I should do this. But, they woulda, coulda, shoulda, but they don't, because the pull physiologically, when the hormones start dumping, we make ineffective decisions and we don't rise to the occasion. We default to our training. And if the training says take care of others before you take care of yourself, and we have this unhealthy altruistic streak, we're going to make the same mistake every time, and we're going to break ourselves under the auspices of being magnanimous and helping others.
It's too bad instincts. I want to feel good and enjoy myself, so I'm going to self-indulge. And then I feel altruistic, because why would you not? If you see somebody in a bad shape and you think I got a couple extra bucks, I'll pay their admission to this or hold the door open for them or whatever it is. And, that's all great, but you're not thinking. And that's really the real challenge really is you need an outside unbiased person. I mean, that's what a lot of advantages of like a mathematical calculator. It could care less what the heck you are. It doesn't lie to you.
Numbers never lie.
Yeah, and that's the challenge, because like I said before, if I hire everybody, my brother told me so-and-so is the best broker ever. You don't think somehow they have some bias built into what they do? But if something had no care, was totally agnostic, and all it did was crunch information you gave it and said, look, of the 5 options, and here's how they all work out, you can figure out which one it just showed you is the best of the 5. And that's why somebody like you or something like that just look at it with such a jaundiced eye, but also saying, hey, look, I've been there, this, that, whatever, but I know what you're going to learn in the coming years, but why wait to stumble along? And I'm trying to remember which, was it Sir Branson or whatever, that made the great comment, like you were kind of referencing, I fell on my face a boatload, but the luxury was that every time I fell on my face, at least I was falling forward.
Exactly.
And so that's where somebody needs someone to really help them get to that, and then get off on their own premise. If I went to a good health coach or a good exercise coach, and I went long enough, after a while, if I get smart and inculcate that, I really don't need them anymore. Now I can just do it the rest of my life by myself.
I like fee-based financial planners and advisors. I have a panel of 6 financial experts on my show. They all have their areas of expertise. And that's why I bring them on, because I don't know which stock is going to be the next one that's going to skyrocket. That's not my focus. I'm a success architect, and I'm going to help you become the best you can be, because I know where the mistakes are, and we can figure those that you're getting subject to together. And then I can show you how to overcome those. But when it comes time for the real advice, like the right doctor, the right attorney, the right financial expert, I've got, depending on what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish, I've got the right one for you. Because not everybody is a good fit for everybody, but you got to figure it out. And that's why fee-based financial planning, in my opinion, is great. And that's why I love all of these stock pickers too, because you pay for the advice and then you can take it or not. And if you take it and you win, great. And if you don't take it, you're probably not going to win. But the reality is that they're giving you their best advice, and there's no incentive for them to steer you toward one or another. And that's what I like about it. And that's why I like, fee-based financial planners. Yeah, so, the more money I have, of course, it's going to cost me thousands of dollars versus hundreds of dollars. But I could pay that once, or they can be subscribed to a particular family of investments where they're getting commissions. And it may be a good deal for them, but not such a good deal for me. And therein lies the problem. is because now where is their fiduciary responsibility? It's not to themselves, but that's what's happening with the commission-based products. It's not to the client, which is where it's supposed to be. So, I mean, just these are things to think about. But when it comes to managing money effectively, we need to be in our highest resource state. So whatever time of day that is, you know, they have this great book I just read on sleep, Why We Sleep, and there's owls and larks. So if you're best at night, then that's when you should manage your money. That's when you should be entering in your expenses, calculating your deposits for the day, and creating your financial accountability with your savings and spending tracker. If you are an early morning person, do it before you go to work, or do it on the weekends, or whatever your weekend may be, in the morning or in the evening when you're fresh, when you're resourceful. Because if you're sitting there paying bills when you'd rather be doing something else, or you're under emotional duress because you had a crappy day, you're not going to make effective decisions, you know, and you got to be able to step away from it. Take a deep breath, grab a glass of water, change your physiology, get up and move, mitigate that cortisol. And the only way to do that is through movement, because your body has to burn through it. And then come back in 20, 30 minutes when you are much more even keeled, when you're at your highest resource state, then you can be more effective. You know, because that's all about the success. The only difference between successful people and unsuccessful people are the successful people understand how to maximize their resource states, and they can get into them in a moment because they know how to control their physiology. That's the only difference between successful and unsuccessful people. It's that simple.
That's
it's not that they're smarter. It's not that they're better looking. It's not that they had more advantages, because there's just as many people that came up by the bootstraps as there's actually more of those than there are silver spoons. So.
No, that is the reality. It is as simple as that, truthfully. And it's a perfect segue. We've kind of run to the limit of our time here today, and this was really quite good. And you know, the one thing that sort of we've been frittering around the edges of is that once somebody's kind of come to all these different realizations, and maybe you've helped them organize kind of what to do, when they leave, like with you, they leave your office, as it were. Now what happens? You know, now it's the risk begins, and all that great planning, and everybody agreed to what you just said, but then they're left to their own devices, and it's always
I'm a phone call away. That's the
well, yes, in your instance, but just sort of as in a generality. Okay. And that kind of leads us to where we're at in terms of who's sponsoring us with Freedom Hub, and anyone that had you come here today is the idea of having that Money Max account. So that now I can plug in what you just said and have a track to run on. And so that becomes the way that you have that coach perpetually in your pocket all day, every day, to look at any financial decision that you're making. And you have a way to conference and communicate with Heather, is a good example, and just really keep tabs on what you're supposed to be doing without having to fret about it or stay up overnight or wonder what I should be doing tomorrow financially. You already mapped that out, and now GPS is going to manage it for you. So, you know, in that respect, you know, it's a great adjunct, and, you know, Heather can help you in the same regard and so on. So you're definitely going to want to connect with her in that respect for sure. And truthfully, anybody else that had you come to take a look at this, that's engaged in that regard, to want to help you get your finances under control, and maybe then ultimately bring Heather into your universe, this is the perfect place for you to start. Because without understanding where you are, you know, it's always funny. People say, hey, I want to go to California. Well, where are you right now? Well, I have no idea.
Because it's a different trip. That's the example I always use. I'm in Arizona, but if I didn't know that, and if I didn't know that California is to the west of me, and I'm trying to get to LA, but I take the I-10 east, I'm going to hit Louisiana well before I ever figure out that there's another body of water between me and LA. If I just would have went in the other direction, I might have gotten there.
Exactly. So that's what this really represents. It's a very simplistic tool, but that's the luxury twofold. One, of technology today, that, you know, I can put all this little stuff on my phone and be able to do all amazing things. But then also the great luxury of all of time, because, you know, fads come and go, and, you know, people were homosexual, and then suddenly there's regular couples, and just things change all the time. But you know what never changed, Heather? 2 plus 2 is always 4 1,000 years ago or 1,000 years into the future. So when
Yes.
you understand how math works and something, and here's the truth about today. Everyone's so busy. I'm an expert at fixing cars. I'm an expert at this. I'm a heart surgeon. But you know what? I haven't had to take any time out to learn how money works. Now you don't
Right.
have to worry about that. Somebody can help you figure out what's the best strategy, have a way to build it into something that will execute it for you so you can have fun in life and enjoy your spouse. And frankly, for a lot of people, this particular system, this system, as it were, that I was describing here, that we're talking about as the sponsor of
Yeah.
all this today, I've came to find out after I've been involved with a lot of people over the years, they told me this was a marriage saver.
Well, because what's the biggest problems with divorce?
Money.
Money.
You got
Money
it.
is the biggest initiator of divorce. And if there's any single best tool, once you get your money mind right, your wealth will follow. But you have to have the right tools to support your success. And that's the one thing that I love about what you're scrolling through with this Money Max account. And to be able to okay, I've got my head straight. How do I get my wallet straight? Like you said, this is a snapshot. Every day I can log in and see how can I maximize the effectiveness of each dollar I have coming in today. Where is the best place for me to put it? And with one click and logging into your account, you know exactly what you have to do every day. It takes the mystery out of it. That like, oh my gosh, I still don't know what to do. All right, I know I need to not spend frivolously, or I just need to at least make more money, or whatever their heads going a million miles an hour. But what do I do every day? The best thing about this tool that you have is that it helps you understand what your daily dollars are doing. So it takes the mystery out of it. You don't have to calculate it. This account will do it for you. And when you get into that dashboard, it's all right there. Boom. And the numbers never lie.
Ideally, Heather, I came to you because, I wasn't making in my own financial decision making. So, I'm sort of semi-admitting it. I think I'm just paying for some expertise, but I'm not really realizing, I'm admitting I don't understand what I'm doing. I don't want to look
Right.
like an idiot, but really that's kind of what I'm doing. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's really what this kind of represents, because I wouldn't be seeing you if I had this knowledge about how to run my money.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're helping me and putting me a little bit on steroids, how much more on steroids am I with you if this is going on to back up what you're telling me to do?
Mm-hmm. I made it easy for you. And that's the key. Making success simple is what I do. It's not rocket science. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel. The steps are there to take. You just got to get out of your own way. And I'm not saying, don't be skeptical, because that's the thing that people are like, well, I'm not going to like suspend all reason and faculties to try to just follow along. No, I always tell people, okay, so I don't want you to take what I say for face value. I want you to invest, and I want you to take the steps I tell you and do them exactly as I tell you. And even if you have to, do it with the intent of proving me wrong if it makes you feel better at the end of the day. But what happens is when people start applying these concepts that are proven over time, I've got 25 years of clients that say, oh my gosh, this strategy works. And some of it seems antithetical to what you would think money management is. And I make people do things that they're like, but that has nothing to do with money. And I'm like, I don't care, do it. And when I can have a tool like this to help me take and reinforce what I'm saying, and then I have a third party that provides a tool that takes all the thought process out of it and helps make what I'm saying simple for them to apply as well, it's a tag team of making success simple. And it's exponentially increases somebody's effectiveness to have this tool.
And to tie that into a bow based on it being a couple, which a lot of times, people are engaged in some relationship or married or have families that finally find their way to having such a situation and wanting something like this. It really allows them to really figure out how to coexist, because like you just said earlier on, one person is a spender and the other's the saver.
Mm-hmm.
So how can they have a
Opposites
happy,
attract.
happy. Yeah, and then it's great, and that's the old yin yang is perfect. But you got to figure out how to make the yin and the yang work together to get the
Right.
best solution, and this allows it to occur. I actually had a client in
It's
this
actually one of
exact.
the best relationships is when they're opposite like that.
Oh, because the
Because they can bring
power
out the compliments and the best of both.
accelerate much further than two matched people ever would hope to get if they were always in concurrence on everything and
Well,
failed
and two
consistently
spenders is a
together.
problem. That was my first marriage.
Oh,
Two
that'd
spenders.
be the ultimate horror. But
Whoops.
but that the fact that I had a client where the wife was the saver and she ran a business and the husband had like a career thing where he just was more of a person in the Coast Guard, so he had a different kind of a career and just got paid and just more had fun being the Coast Guard person, as
Mm-hmm.
exciting as that is every day because they're a thrill seeker and they
Right.
happen to get money and they had a good pension, so they never thought twice about spending money or not. And they would sort of get into arguments over, you know, he'd want to spend maybe 2-3 grand to buy a tool cabinet from Sears, and it's a lot of money for a tool cabinet, but to him it wasn't a big deal because he had a lot of tools.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
but when they had this software where they could literally plug in, when we're trying to get out of debt on this day, and look what's going to happen if we do what you're talking about here, and they themselves literally touched the hot stove and went, oh my gosh, I really didn't appreciate that. Like you see it, because I see it from my perspective, but now I'm seeing it almost from yours without you having to beat me up or make me feel bad or defensive. This outside agnostic third person is showing us reality. And I self say, yeah, you know what? I could probably live without the toolbox.
Mm-hmm. Well, and uh, the toolbox, I mean, we're only as effective as the people and the resources we surround ourselves with once we get our own in alignment. And once we get mentally where we need to be, it's okay. And I think that that's probably one of the best things that's come as we've evolved as a society, is that it's becoming more okay to seek the advice of professional coaches and financial professionals, just like we go to the doctor and we go to the medical doctor, not the witch doctor. And we make these conscious decisions to seek people out that have professional designations, that have a history of client success, that it's important that we have those resources available. And if I am not a financial professional, if I've created an incredible life and I'm in the construction trades, for example, maybe I'm a contractor, and I can swing a hammer like nobody's business, but when it comes time to balancing the checkbook, not so much. I don't know where to invest. I don't know what to do, but I do make good money. And without that guidance, without that extra resource or tool in your toolbox, especially like something with all of the different offerings that you have at Freedom Hub, that they can get lost. And I think, it's critical to put the right tools in your toolbox. Any tool won't work, just the right tools. And you don't need a plethora of them.
No, very good. Well, I really appreciate you spending some time today. We ran a hair long, but it was very compelling, and we can't get to anything more important than your money, because the rest of, and with any of those couples, and they would maybe independently complain about their spouse doing X, Y, or Z. If I said, well, let me ask you a question. If you made a lot more money, would you care about that? And they said, heck no. So, you get frivolous and petty when you're always tight on money and you can't sleep at night knowing what's going on. So
Right.
for sure, anybody that understands what they should start to do is going to want to definitely reach out to Heather. We've got some information here for you to be able to get back to whoever had you. Like I said, check this out, or here's a way to kind of find out generically about what's going on out there. And Heather, I really appreciate you spending some time today with us.
Oh, the pleasure is mine. And I just put my coaching website, empoweringsuccess.com. If you're interested, anybody that has participated in today's webinar, I'd be happy to give you a complimentary discovery session to get you pointed in the right direction. And it might be right back to Jeff. But either way, I'd be happy to do that for all of your viewers.
Fantastic. And again, we'll see everybody the next go around. I appreciate you taking a concern and interest in your financial future.
Oh, well, it's the pleasure is mine. Thanks again, Jeff.